Hello everyone. So welcome to the third edition, I suppose we could say, of the Conscientiogram without drama. It's the first one we've done for maybe about 2 years, I think. Yes. And so we're going to have a big group joining us. We're looking at like having up to around 20 students. And so really today is not, the first two classes I should say of the course, they're a little bit different. They're different because we're going to do introductions, we're going to introduce various themes, we're going to try and bring everyone up to like a baseline, at least a minimum amount of knowledge regarding conscientiology, conscientiometry, and also the Conscientiogram, the book we're going to use throughout the course. So that book is something that you can actually download online for free, as you've probably seen in the emails already. But anyway, let me start with the introductions, right? So what we'd like to do, we'll introduce ourselves each individually, but we'd also like for who's participating out there online, and there's not too many online at the moment, but there'll be more people coming, I think, to type an introduction of yourselves, your name, where you are, profession, and also perhaps briefly just the experience or the amount of time you've had contact with Conscientiology, because that will help us to understand what level we need to go to in terms of explaining some things. So anyway, firstly, my name's Jeff Lloyd. I'm a New Zealander, so I was born in New Zealand, but I've been living in Brazil here for about the last 6 years. My experience with Conscientiology dates back until 1996, but I've been a more permanent teacher and volunteer since 1999. And more recently, well, not that recently, but I suppose maybe 5 years ago, I started to work more with the Conscientiogram and with Conscius, in addition to other works and volunteering that I do. I enjoy this work particularly because it's so rich. The self-research we can do, the level of understanding we get about ourselves and therefore of others is really immense, it's huge. But it comes in layers, so little by little, as you go through things and you start to repeat some exercises and techniques, such as working with this book, your level of understanding deepens. And also, as you'll see as we go through the course, guys, how the interpretations are very individual of each item, of each question in the book. So there's a real array of possibilities and understandings that await to be discovered and understood. But anyway, that's enough about me. How about one of you guys goes next?
Well, I'm also old, so I'm old in Conscientiology. I started learning and met Professor Waldo in 1988. Started as a teacher in 1989, which is making up to 30 years of Conscientiology this year. So I'm actually old, not experienced anymore. So inside Conscientiology, conscientiometrology has always been something that called my attention, especially because of the internal recycling, which is a subject that I studied even before arriving at Conscientiology, and I'm sure I've been studying this much before being born, which I was born here in Brazil. I'm Brazilian, I have like 55 years old. I've been 55 last year. My profession, it has to do with technology. I used to be also a pilot, so I'm more into the technological mechanics and stuff, so I'm very technical on things, and it has to do with the conscientiometrology also. So this course, I love this course because it helps us deepen into the understanding of ourselves with a very technical and actually fun way of doing things. So that's good enough for me also.
So my name is Magali. I met Conscientiology in 2001. Since then I've been studying in IPC, and then I moved to Foz do Iguaçu in 2003, and here I became a teacher of Conscientiology. And then in 2013 I became a teacher of Conscius, Consciential Metrology. So I love, because Conscius gave me the opportunity of deep my research and it's really a methodology that is so, you're gonna see, but for me, in my experience, was so, was in a kind of way, it's difficult but it's easy. Make you focus in your research. So give you a way of doing a research. I'm a psychologist, and so I love to study people and study myself. So that's it. I'm here, and let's see how can I help you. And I'm the only one that is a trainee in this group. So I'm a training teacher here.
But that's
I hope I get well.
No,
I go well.
This is only in English.
Yeah.
She's an experienced teacher of conscientiometry.
Yes, that's true.
Just the English she's trying to discount on.
In EAD teaching, yes, that's it.
Okay, so me now, right? My name is Valesca. I teach before this course with Djalma and Jeffrey, also sometimes with Magali as well.
Yeah.
I started in Conscientiology back in 1997 in Rio. I'm from Rio. Then I started there, I became a teacher, and then I traveled to London, stayed there for 4 years, and became a teacher there as well. Then in 2005 I came back to Eagles Falls, and I started doing courses on conscientiometry since I got here. So in 2013, along with Magali, we became a teacher together here in Conscius, and we started to give classes since then. And conscientiometrology, conscientiometry.
Yeah.
This is something in my DNA. I used to say that because this has everything about my internship course, for instance. Because this is, for me, this is a way of living, doing analysis, understanding what's going on with you, with me, inside of me, with other people, what connects us. This physiology or paraphysiology, this is what catches my attention. And it's a challenge to solve, so you can reach a comprehension, a bigger comprehension about myself, about everything. So this is my passion. This is what motivates me the most. So when you do some recycling, you have some experience and you understand something, you connect two dots and have a bigger view, a bigger understanding about the way you work, and then how you can recycle things, you're able to recycle things. So that's what gives more food to me. This is my motivation of life. So we are here together. This is a huge satisfaction, because for us to spread this work all over the world is very nice, it's very motivating as well. So we're here to help you. So your labs, you're going to help us to enrich our work here and to help you to recycle. And then this is the real interassistantial task. So we learn from you, you learn from us.
That's
also the thing.
Yeah,
the main thing
is a lot of our experience will come here. We are gonna bring here to the course. How was our all the thing. And there is another teacher also, that is Louis Mara.
True. Yeah. So Louis Mara is another really experienced teacher. She's involved in another course this weekend, and so can't be here. And also the next week she's also involved in a different course. So she'll be here from the third week on, and she'll be a constant member of the team. There will always be at least 2-3 teachers, probably always 4. And this will be the core team, but including Louis Mara. But we'll just sort of see people have to travel, or there's other things come up. So, but there's always going to be a constant presence of teachers that have a familiar face to you. So guys, it's a shame we can't have the videos of you each introducing yourselves to everyone else, because it's nice to share, but at least you can see each other's names and get an idea of where you're from. We know many of you in person. Some of you are just new people who we're encountering in some form for the first time, at least in this environment. So welcome to the course, welcome to Conscius, and welcome to what's going to be a bit of an adventure in terms of your developing your self-understanding and getting to know yourselves in ways which you've probably never thought of before. So, with that, why don't we do a little bit of energy work now?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is something which will happen in each class. We'll have a period of, I think it's 15 minutes, where we work with energies. And the interesting thing about energy is that distance doesn't affect it. So even though you guys are spread all around the world, the energy work we're going to do in terms of forming an energetic field, right, that connects us all even a little bit more clearly and cleanly. This distance, it doesn't impact on the fact. So just at home, just make sure you're not going to be disturbed for like the next 15 minutes. Just stay focused and relaxed. You can have your eyes closed, but just keep listening to the audio and to the instructions and so on. John, would you want to lead the energy work?
Okay, I can do it. All right. So let's try to, if you can, now you close doors, try to make yourself a little distant from, sounds and other people, so that you can be quiet for at least 10 minutes. And then you sit down in a comfortable position. You can do some deep breath to help relax your soma. And little by little, let's move our perception to the energies that flow inside of us and also surrounds our body. Try to pay attention to this movement. And then exercise your will with those energies and try to exteriorize them, push them out of your micro universe, from your center to the environment, to your room. Try to fill up your room with your energies. You can do that intermittently, so in jets with the rhythm. Doesn't have to be continuous. Observe the changes, the ideas that you might have. Observe also in your room areas where it's harder to fill with energy. Observe if there are objects in this area. Now change the direction of energies and pull them to yourself. Absorb energies from this field energetic field that you and the helpers have just installed there. Take the time to compensate, to equalize the energies in your energetic soma, energetic body. Now let's move the energy from top to bottom, from the head, from the ground chakra to the feet. Do it intensely, strongly. It can be slow. I'll try to cover pretty much all the areas in your body and cleanse down. When you reach down, come back cleansing to the top. Once in the top, you go back to the feet. Establish a closed circuit up and down. Make sure you overcome any blockades, any hard flowing areas. Let's get rid of all the energetic gems that we have in our energosoma. Go faster and stronger. If you haven't reached a vibrational state, increase the speed until you get a vibrational feeling. It can be subtle, can be very perceptive. Doesn't matter. Now you just little by little stop the movement and observe your energies inside and out. Try to memorize all ideas, lateral thoughts, thought scenes, inspirations, perceptions. start doing some small movements in order to get back to the coincidence of our vehicles, to get back to the normal waking state. Everybody's okay? You can type there. There's an area where you can type, so you have some feedback. We know if you have any trouble with sound, video. We had some trouble with some guys. We will do support here also if you need, guys.
Also, if you want to exchange any ideas, sometimes about what happened in the energetic work. So you just type it in and...
Absolutely. Feel really free. This is something that you're going to do throughout the course, is type questions into the question box down here, down the bottom, and send it to us. So feel really free to express that. So even though we have this setup of the video and the distance and so on, try to connect, try to ask any questions you can.
Also, if you don't understand or know about even I always tell Jeffrey, speak slowly because he has this, New Zealand accent. So
no, not really. He doesn't. But he's a fast thinker. He has tact psychism.
Yeah.
People who think fast tend to really go fast with the language, and the guy is good. The guy is good in both things, so we need some time to hold.
So it's good and bad for you. So just remind me, say, Jeff, slow down. Feel free to make observations.
But his accent is really good.
He's very kind.
No, I know New Zealanders. New Zealanders really, when they have hard accent, it's really hard to understand.
So we are going to move on to the next thing now. Was there any feedback from you guys? Any sensations, any questions you have as a result of the energy work that the Jalma was leading?
You can write, you can type on your chat there is an area. If you type, everyone is going to see. Don't be shy.
First day, so many people, and some people are still trying to find their way in.
That's on.
Sometimes it's usually there is no this type thing in the energetic work, but today was a little bit because people is trying to come, and sometimes the problem is with the computer. Sometimes the problem, and so we have to see what is happening. But anyway.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
Yeah.
So, guys, we're gonna go through today a few basic sort of things. The usual classes we'll explain in more detail next week. So, what is the structure of the class? How does it work? The interaction and the dynamic. We'll do that more next week. Today, we're going to cover more basic things such as what is Conscius. So, I particularly want to start, and I should say before we do that, on page 272 of the Conscientiogram. And so we have people who have a couple of copies of this book. We have some in Puerto Rico, we have some in America, and some in Europe. If you want to buy this book already printed and bound and so on, get in touch with us and we'll get you in touch with the people who can make sure that you get a copy in the hand. Otherwise, you can download the PDF of this book. You can print off pages at home and work at it in that way.
We even send to you with
the
the
link.
message.
You have in the email the link to download the PDF of this. So if you can we send that in the chat actually now? So if you go to page 272, you'll see there's a bit of an introduction about Conscius. Conscius is an organisation, Marcus. Do you want to read a little bit about it for us?
So, Conscius, I'm going to talk a little bit. I'll read it? Okay. So Conscius is an organization specialized in study and research of methods of evaluation of consciousness. It was founded on 24th February 2006 in Foz do Iguaçu, Brazil, and is maintained by volunteers as a non-profit, independent, no political and no non-partisan organization. So, Conscius is the institution specialized in self-research. As you know, or not, I don't know, but we have 25, more or less 25 Consciential institutions here in Brazil. And some are specialized in retrocognition as consecutivos, Apex as Proexology, and Invex or Asinvex in Vexology, so on. So Conscius is the institution that work with self-research. So as we see, Conscius is interested in help people that wants to deep the research in themselves. No?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
With the methodology that we use, mainly is the methodology that Professor Waldo created, isn't it?
Yes.
Is the methodology that we are going to use even in EAD. But we also have other methodologies. We have a set of courses. I don't know if anyone wants to talk about the course, but yes. We have...
it's worth talking briefly, I think. There's for example, there's this course, obviously, and then there's a whole series of courses which help a person deepen and deepen and deepen and broaden their self-research. If you actually take the time to read more of the Conscientiogram, there's actually details there. We're going to cover some of those details next week. For example, how to do an evaluation, how to answer the questions, tips and orientations in that regard. But there's also a few other summary sheets which can be used, and there's also an application and a spreadsheet which we'll send you the links to and the information about how to use. So in terms of courses, we have what we call the theoresis of conscientiometry.
Yes, that is around 6 months, and is the basis of to do research, because here in Conscius we see that to arrive to enter in a book like Conscientiogram, we need at least a base sometimes, because it's a lot of new words and new concepts, and so this course is a base of self-knowledge in 6 months. After that we have Recin 2. That Recin 1, that's also 6 months, around 6 months, that we do the same that we are doing here, but it's not online, it's a presential course that we fill up the Conscientiogram. And the third one is Recin 2. Recin 2 is more profound. We even have the technique of Recin 2 in that book. We are going to go in all the techniques, all the methodology that we are going to use in this course and that we use in other courses too, along the course. So Recin 2 is more or less, it's a course that is practically going to be a guinea pig. No, you do your research, but then you are going to be there with your evaluation sheet, and you're going to share it with other people. So we have also a guinea pig course. That is a course that after you can see here is the 5th one, and
that's basically the main set of things that are available. There's also an interesting one which is the preceptorship, which is like a 2-hour session of discussing with a couple of experienced teachers individual things, personal things that the person brings and wants to talk about and try to understand more. But one of the main things you'll see across all of the courses is this understanding of what are attributes of a consciousness, what are characteristics and traits. So as we go through this work, you're going to see and understand more what are some of the traits that we have, you know, and the Conscientiogram is full of them. So 100 of them, to be, I suppose, a little bit more precise. So it's something you're always going to work with. So we're trying to be a little bit more mathematical and a little bit more scientific. That's why the white coats, we use the white coats, right? Because we're trying to evoke and work in that methodological approach to structure a more deeper understanding of things. So we're going to start to focus our minds and our attention on ourselves to help us to get a broader understanding and a clearer understanding. And we all have good things, right? We all have strong traits, which we will identify and you will identify as you go through the course. But we also all have weak traits. And beyond that, we have traits that are missing or absent traits. So one of the objectives of all of this process of Conscius and conscientiometry, which we're also going to explain in more detail as well, is to help us to get a more clear diagnosis on our own situation, on our personal situation. It's not us telling you, it's you discovering for yourselves. We're just helping people understand the Conscientiogram and the questions and how to approach answering the questions, because it's a good challenge. If you already opened and downloaded the book and had a look, you'll see that many other questions are a good sized challenge.
Yeah, it's a good thing to understand yourself, understand your tendencies, because we are very old consciousnesses. So
all of us.
It's not only us that we're talking about. So understanding this big flow of characteristics that is there for a long time helps us use them better. Either strong traits, either weak traits, they are there. And they are supposed to be there because they have been developed already. So they are facts.
He used the really nice word. He used the word micro-universe before.
Yeah. Yes, that's right.
Help us explain that more for people.
That's a good point to start. Yeah. We are actually a micro-universe. So we have lots of different experiences, rich experiences, and all of this relate, and what we have now is sort of a picture or a snapshot of all those experiences that are working now. So we need to be like CSIs, you know, forensic, studying ourselves so that we understand the causality of everything. This course is based on the principle of causality. So we are a micro-universe. We came from something, right? So we are a very strong structure in itself, and mainly good. This is another principle. Why do you think we are good? Everyone is good. Why? Because everyone is wanting or not evolving. We are consciousnesses in evolution. If we decide to evolve together with our consciousness, we tend to converge with our own nature. If we go against that nature, we are evil, but especially to ourselves, right? We start doing things that against our own nature. What we try to understand is our nature and to be actually in touch with this nature. And that nature is what we call consciousness. That's the consciousness. That's the micro-universe. That's the being that doesn't die with anything. And this is not the vehicle. This is not the soma, psychosoma, energetic soma, whatever soma that we're talking about. We are this spark that has the intelligence, memory, identity, individuality, power, right? We have a lot of power. Real power. It's not like political power, money power. It's not this power we're talking about. It's real internal power. So we need to actually understand that.
Yeah, and we don't. What I perceive in my experience here in Conscius is that we don't know much about ourselves. At least I didn't, and I still don't.
No,
So that's great, because the methodology that Professor Waldo created is amazing, because he brings all these attributes that we can see in vehicles also, that we can analyze ourselves. Really.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of a little bit of, I suppose, the motivation behind Conscientiology. Conscientiology seeks to understand what is it to be a human being, what is it to be a consciousness in this universe. Because, we're all connected, our bodies are all made of the same stuff, and there are patterns and tendencies which some people came closer to identifying throughout history. Some lines of knowledge have good information and good ideas, but we're all, there hasn't been until now, at least none that we've been able to find, such a broad, comprehensive set of information, which multidimensional information. So sometimes we're very good on some physical things. Scientists, conventional scientists, are really good on looking at atoms and electrons and subatomic particles and all this. But in doing that, many times they're completely isolating themselves from themselves. They study these electrons and stuff so much, but they don't even stop to think about and reflect on how are they, what are they, what are they doing in their evolution. This is a kind of intelligence that we talk about, and I think it's a very valid intelligence, called evolutionary intelligence. This initiative that each of you is demonstrating, and people usually involved in Conscientiology demonstrate, because that's the focus of the work, this evolutionary intelligence, this desire to understand not only external things better, but actually to understand those external things through self-understanding, through self-knowledge. When we understand ourselves better and we use all these potentials we have as a consciousness, we start to unfurl, unravel, simplify many things, right? It's not always easy to do that. It's a challenge, right? We've hidden a lot of things from ourselves for a long time. But that's the objective. Any other comments on that, guys?
That's a good thing that you started there, because there is up to this point, there are some premises. One of the premises is that there is consciousness and energy. People sometimes think, no, I'm an energy. No, you're not energy. You're consciousness. Energy is something else. Energy is like material world. That's the part where we can manifest ourselves. That's the big white canvas on top of what we can produce our steps on and leave our traces. So we study the traces, but we are not them, right? We are the ones that produce those traces on energy. So energy is not consciousness. That's one of the good things to start telling people.
Exactly. So even this body, right?
Yeah.
It's energy. The interesting part about the body, despite all its fascinating mechanisms and structures and all that, the most interesting thing is the consciousness. And so that's what we're driving at. That's our interest.
That's interesting, because here we study the bodies,
yes,
but to get to the consciousness, how this consciousness is using,
really good.
Manifest with those bodies. So then comes
on page
physical,
27 you'll see.
Yeah. How you are using your soma, or your negosoma, or your psychosoma, or mental soma. How is that? That we evaluate here through this course.
Exactly. So that leads us quite nicely into this section in the book, which starts on page 25. It's an introduction to Conscientiology. So what we wanted to do with this book, and it's a revised and updated edition. The questions and the items, the 2,000 questions or items in the book are the same, but the supporting content has been amplified, improved and changed. So we've made this book essentially like a self-contained kit. We wanted to make the book so anyone can get it anywhere. They don't need to depend on us for any information, but they can read it all, apply techniques by themselves, and use it as like a self-contained learning tool. So that's what we were trying to stimulate here. We're here to give you guys like a running start to carry on the work for you for the rest of your lives, to do your own self-research and develop your self-knowledge. So this thing, Conscientiology, I know some of you are veterans already, you know a lot about Conscientiology, but we're going to go through, perhaps in a little bit more detail, we'll take maybe 20 minutes or something like that, to talk about some of the basic pillars and premises in Conscientiology. So starting on page 26, really the text starts, and we talk about the holosoma. So we've been talking a little bit, Margaret started to introduce a little bit more about the holosoma. But there's a few things to look at here. If we look at page 26, I'll almost read the first paragraph. I can't ask any of you students to read it, but I'll read it out loud. Conscientiology is the science that studies the consciousness, the ego, soul, spirit, individual essence, self, intelligent principle, in an integral manner. So integral means through all these different bodies. It means through looking at all the different dimensions we manifest in. So our bodies, our mental body manifests more in the mental dimension. You know, we can have projections out of the body and have lucid out-of-body experiences and learn and stuff. And interestingly, this shows that the science, it's post-materialist. So it's proposed by Dr. Vieira in 1981. And as we've been describing very well, I think, you know, we're looking to elaborate this understanding of the human condition.
Yes, as in psychology, no? We study just the person, but not the whole thing. You know, here we are looking to the person and see not just this life, not just you as you see yourself today, but you in this multidimensional world with a series of life, no?
Yeah, exactly. And from all of those lives, the inheritance you have from yourself, all of those self-inheritances, those abilities and traits which you have, which maybe until now you haven't identified some of them in this life.
Oh, most of them.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
They may be active, but if you're not aware of them, you don't become a professional. You don't potentialize them. So it's not only enough to be good in something, but you need to be aware that you're good at something.
Yes, that's very true.
So this is important. This is one of our goals here, because otherwise you can't. I mean, you have a strong trait, but it always can be improved. Always.
How do you call trafora ocioso? How is that?
Yes.
An
lazy
idle trait.
Idle.
It's
strong trait.
not being used.
Yeah. So that's one thing that you're going to discover here with the
or sometimes
Conscientiogram.
it's subutilized, you know, in a matter that you're using in banalities, which could be used actually in things that are more important for your priorities as far as evolution is concerned.
And much more constructive.
Much more constructive. Sometimes you don't even actually understand that is a strong trait because it's so natural. It's very common not to recognize a strong trait because it's something natural. You just do it. But not a lot of people do it, and maybe you don't know anyone that does it, but you just do it, and then it's natural for you.
Usually
you don't even recognize it as something that can be used.
Usually people point that to you about the strong trait.
Yeah.
Sometimes. You have that? No. Yes, do I? Yes, you have that. So you start to think about that.
Yeah, and then it comes to a second question, which is everybody's evolution is evolving naturally. Especially some humans. But humans, at some point, they start evolving intelligently. So we are discussing here, this is part of a subject very important in Conscientiology, which is evolutionary intelligence. That's part of Consciential metrology. It's a way of using your traits on the best way possible, using your resources to, enhance your evolution and others' evolution as well, together with them.
This development, right? This growth, it's something that we're all seeking. Many times the way we're going about it is not so efficient. So one thing that I really value in Conscientiology is that it looks to be a really efficient way of developing this knowledge and developing this evolutionary growth. And part of that, I'm reading here again on page 26, is thinking about verpons. This idea of leading edge relative truths. Relative because we don't have absolute truths here. We don't know definitive answers. It's always things that are evolving. Just as we are evolving, knowledge is evolving. The level of these sciences is evolving. And so you'll see in the book and in the work that we do, you'll see many new words. So in addition to verpons, there's also neologisms. And these neologisms, some people sometimes have resistance to them. Personally, I love them. If I see a word I don't understand, I actually like it. It might sound like I'm a little bit sick, but I like it because I have to go to the dictionary and I learn something new. What's the root of that word? Where does it come from? What is it? And so don't be frustrated is my invitation to you with new words, new terms.
That's great. That shows a little bit of the person, no? The mental somatic thing, because there's people that have difficulty in approaching that. So maybe it's a weak trait, maybe it's a missing trait of the person, that once you recognize it, you can work on that.
All these reactions you will have to different things that you will encounter throughout the course are great self-research opportunities for you. How do you feel when you're working on one particular evaluation sheet? So we have 100 evaluation sheets we're going to do throughout the course. Or particularly we're going to present about 1/5 of them, so 20 of them in the class. How do you feel on that particular evaluation sheet? You'll see some are harder and some are easier. What ones are harder, what ones are easier? So this omni-questioning.
And it's interesting what he's saying, that some of the evaluation sheets are hard for everyone, but this is a very small group because they're usually to the end of the book and they're more complex. So it reaches up to a level that we are not there yet. So it's more like missing traits for everyone. But in general, is very individual, which evaluation sheet actually bothers us. So this is a very relevant information about ourselves, you know.
Yeah.
So in the bigger group of reaction is really interesting, and you're gonna see that it's actually fun. In the beginning, the reaction is it's kind of negative, but when you start deepening the understanding, the change in cognition makes your relationship with things change.
Yeah.
Better than actually changing yourself. And this is really good because you change the way you relate to things. And then you understand yourself a lot better.
Yeah. There's actually on this idea of being open to new things. Actually, if you look on page 29, there's a page called Conscientiological Neologisms. And there's a few thoughts here that are probably worth just emphasizing, right? And down the bottom there, you'll see in the author thoughts, neologisms. The second one, an accurate neologism, it's a natural imposition of scientific neo-research. So if you're doing new research, you're going to have to create new words sooner or later. In every line of science until now, it's happened, it's inevitable. And so if you're doing new self-research as well, okay, the same thing goes. There's going to be new words and new terms that you're going to create based on your own self-research.
Yes, it's important because words, they get old and they get sometimes a lot of bad energies attached to its meaning.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to create new words so you can clean these old meaning old energies, and also we intend to be more precise. So we try to get the precise words because we're trying to be more scientific here. This is a science, so we need to be more precise and get new words that approach more the core of the meaning.
Yes.
Exactly. And here in the center of that page, you'll see neologisms are to be enjoyed and savored as they open doors to previously unknown experiences and unanticipated understandings. And it's like that. You have a new word, a new idea, your head opens. New things become possible, new understandings, new comprehensions, new perspectives on old things start to happen with more frequency. And this is really positive for the renewal of the energies, of the synapses in your brain, of having greater neuroplasticity. You become more flexible. You know when you go to Pilates and you start to stretch and stretch, at first it hurts, right? No, I don't want to do that. But you do it, and at time you become much more flexible. Neologisms are like that, but for your brain.
And brain Pilates.
Yeah, brain Pilates.
So yeah,
that's a neologism.
Brain Pilates. You create a neologism,
No,
The tree vocabulary.
Yeah.
Megathosine.
Trivocabulary.
That's it. The conscientiogram is that works your mental soma, your brain, because there is lots of neologisms, lots of words that is not common use, that we have to use. No dictionary.
It's a very good opportunity for you to leave the automatic way of being. We are very automatic. Our brain, it's very strange. I mean, it's very different from the consciousness. The brain is binary, right? Binary.
It's binary.
So it's on or off. It always uses the little way, the lowest,
the easier way
to reach some point.
The path of least resistance.
The path of least resistance.
Yes. Exactly.
Yes.
So we are consciousness. We are kind of the opposite. So we are in a animal body, with a brain that looks like that works against us. Somehow.
Yeah, sometimes
it's slow.
Because you don't know yet how to use use this resource. We're still learning how to use this resource. So we need to go against our animal nature, while intraphysical consciousnesses.
Yeah.
Right.
And this is a big challenge of human life.
The Conscientiogram, this I think this is a good way to call it. It's a mental somatic intrusion because of that. Mesology is very strong on us, so this body is very strong on us in against our natural way of evolving.
Yeah.
So extraphysical consciousnesses, they without the body, when we are in an intermissive period, we are free of the dense energies. We are free of the restrictive brain,
the interference
of mesology, but here is our bigger challenge to evolve. So dominate this animal body, this animal brain, is part of our challenge to evolve.
And it's also the sub-brain we have to dominate as well. Which is
all to do with too much, so everyone.
All to do with our instincts and so on. So the challenge is
very, very hard.
The challenge is taking advantage of it. So understanding, for instance, if it's automatic, we need to make it lucidly automatic. For instance, when you wake up, Professor Waldo used to talk about this very much. When you wake up in the morning and you start your first action of work as you arrive at your work, from the moment you woke up to the point that you arrive at your work, how many actions do you think you have done to get there? Are you completely aware of all those actions, and how have you done them? So this portion is really interesting. We usually don't spend much time with that, and we end up living our life to actually live by themselves. So our life is something more automatic. What we are proposing here is not. we are going to use and program the automatic part of our body consciously. So this is something to spend some time.
And yes, one interesting thing about that we are talking about these new words, and is because if you don't have a word to something, that doesn't exist for you. So to us to study consciousness that is so complex, so big, we need to have more words. We need to have more words to express things, like Valeska was telling about the brain. So we have to, that's a challenge here in Conscius, no? To do conscientiometry.
Right. Heidi is asking, the greatest and best neologism is that born from the breast of meteorology. Meteorology is the study of the impossible. It's when we reach the limits of our understanding. We understand, and then reach to the point where our understanding doesn't go anymore. From that point on is imagination, which is called meteorology. So that limit, so the neologism is good when it's in the breast of meteorology. So it goes a little bit further from our current understanding and is between ignorance and meteorology. Ignorance is the part that I really don't know, and meteorology is the part that I'm trying to study that's beyond my understanding. Now it's on
the cusp of your...
It's on the cusp.
The limit of your knowledge.
Yeah, the cusp of the limit of our knowledge. It's personal to some sense, but also humanity reaches that together. At some point, the earth being round was meteorology. At some point, the sun being the center of the universe was meteorology. At some point, Earth itself was meteorology. We thought that we're on a plane universe. So think about it. So we enriching that is when we start creating neologisms. So that's I don't know if it's clear now, but
I think that's pretty clear. I think it's clear. So guys, still talking more about conscientiology. So here we're covering a wide range of stuff, but we'll go back to page 26 and we'll just go through a few of the other main sort of pillars, I suppose we could say, of conscientiology. So we've talked about multidimensionality already, so we don't need to repeat that, but obviously we are multidimensional beings. Obviously for me, if you had no out-of-body experience and never felt energies, it's not obvious, but you can feel those things and have those experiences as we've all had. And our work with bioenergies, right? So this body is bioenergy. We connect with this and we have to learn to try to control it better. It's one of those basic kinds of concepts and ideas. But there's not just bioenergies, we have immanent energy as well, so energy from nature. So you might come home after work really tired and drained, but you go for a walk on the beach and all of a sudden after 10-15 minutes you start to feel better. Why is that? There's a process there that's happened, right? Yeah, it's to do with the energy, it's to do with the quality of the energy, it's to do with you absorbing energies. Life here in this dimension is energetic. Always. And the depth of your interaction with this process and understanding of it really depends up to you, what you're doing, how much you're doing. And so when we get to the bioenergy section in the book, you will actually see and have a chance to evaluate yourself in many different aspects in relation to bioenergies, or in relation to what we call, say, the energosoma, the energy body. Who would like to talk about cosmoethics? Just quickly, anyone? Quickly?
There is cosmoethics.
That's her
Yes.
area of research.
It's called, we here at the book we call the cosmic moral, the consciential paradigm's moral philosophy that studies the research ethics and reflects on the multidimensional cosmic moral, that defines consciential holomaturity. So you have moral, intraphysical moral, so you go and evolve through ethics, moral, intraphysical ethics. So cosmoethics we understand through the consciential paradigm, which involves energies, other lives, multi-existential beings, multi-dimensions. So we consider all the consciential paradigm when you're talking about ethics. So that's why you call it cosmoethics. So when you see something that seems very, very wrong, if you study that condition only through this life, it's very little, it's very narrow. So the consciential paradigm gives us a broader view. So you understand that that thing that's happening in the first moment could be wrong, but now seems to be okay because you have a broader view. So this is just an example for understanding a bit more about cosmetics, but we're going to talk lots of it during
That's a good
our
point.
course.
A good parallel to understand that is evidence, right? When you study a crime from the point of evidence, you see if you have a little evidence, then you think of the seriousness of that crime, but as evidences are coming, then you understand better how serious or not serious that crime is. So
the facts, right?
So those are facts. So if you get different nature facts, para-facts, together with facts, it changes completely how you see things and how you see the consequences of your actions, of your thoughts. So cosmoethics has to do with this harmony with the universe towards our actions, towards our ethology. So sometimes it's very harmonic with us, but someone that's seen from a narrow point of view might not understand that. So why is it that a boy that is 3 years old has cancer? Is it not cosmoethical?
Good question. Has to do with our level of coherence as we grow.
So maybe I don't understand it, but the thing is, cosmoethics also makes us less sure about things, or preconceived ideas about things. You need to get. So what I say is that I need more evidence. When you say, "Is it not cosmoetic?" Sorry, I need more evidence. It's just like the crime. You see, sorry, I need more evidence. Probably not.
And guys, there's also another few points here on page 28 I'm looking at particularly now, but in relation to what the genre and the team's been saying, this idea of the principle of disbelief. We're all giving you our opinions, we're giving you the best knowledge that we have, but it's really important that you don't believe what we're saying. The general phrase we always talk about here is don't believe in anything, experiment, have your own experiences. So we're giving you views, interpretations, and you'll see once we get into the work in a couple of weeks' time, when we're actually answering and responding to particular questions, each of us usually has different interpretations on that particular question, and each of them is valid. And then you have to see what makes sense for you at this evolutionary moment for you. So this idea of the principle of disbelief is really important to maintain that sense of criticism and the sense of self-experimentation, which here is at the top of page 28, and also the sense of universalism, just to quickly cover off a few other of the main pillars of conscientiology.
And it's good to use, I apply that also to myself. Don't believe also in what you think about yourself. No? Because here we are researching ourselves and we have an image about ourselves that we have to maybe deconstruct that while the course is coming. So if you stay stuck, stuck with your idea about yourself, you cannot work. So don't believe in what we are saying or others are saying about you, but also don't believe what you're saying. Have your experience, check it,
question it.
Yes, take it for your studies, That's
try to broaden. Yeah. Always broaden your own view and your own understanding of yourself. So a good way, a good premise to start is actually not closing any subject about ourselves. And belief sometimes has this thing. It's something that we accept tacitly. So we accept with no struggle, with no questioning and
no criteria.
When sometimes we don't understand why we just accept that reality. And many of the things of misinterpretations of some bother that we feel some reactiveness has to do with the way we relate, and belief has a lot to do with this.
Yeah. And we also do the course here based in facts, no?
Yes.
Because then facts tell more about you than what you think about yourself.
That's true. Because many times we have belief tends to lead to rigidity.
Yes.
And this leads to stagnation, and this leads to very fixed ideas about ourselves. So what we're inviting you to do is to give yourselves a break, to loosen up a little bit in these regards, and seek new interpretations, diagnoses, understandings of yourself and your own behaviours, with the idea of helping to liberate yourself from internal conflicts. And when you diminish your level of internal conflict, you are going to diminish your level of external conflict. These fights and the disagreements you have with other people start to melt away, start to diminish. It's not an overnight thing, of course, but this process starts to happen. And so it's a really rewarding thing, and that brings a greater sense of universalism. So universalism is this, I'll read here briefly, is a set of ideas derived from the universality of the basic laws of nature and the universe. These are basic laws, they're everywhere, they apply for everyone. An individual micro-universe's mature relationship with the macro-universe, so the entire universe, requires the individual to expand their micro-universe by adapting and adopting postures and attitudes more aligned with a set of ideas that represent universalism. Universalism is one of the key things that we can tend to spot in an intermissivist. So an intermissivist is someone who's before this life, this physical current life, was in an intermissive course, receiving instructions and orientations and preparing well to come to this life to do tasks that are a little bit different than just the normal. To do the normal, you just have to arrive here. To do something a little bit different, you need to start being prepared differently. And that comes down to, who you are as an individual. What are your strong traits? What's recorded in your personal evolutionary register from all of your thousands and thousands of lives? Who is it that you are? And that's the challenge of conscientiometry, and that's our own personal challenge, is to try to understand who we are in a broader and deeper manner.
Very good point.
So this thing of universalism, that's great. I'm just turning quickly. We've gone over the time which we thought we might give to conscientiology, but it's not a problem. I think we have flexibility there. So I'm looking now at page number 30, and you'll see here, first little bit of analysis you can do for yourself is on this graph. Mine's coloured, yours is in black and white. There's a reason for that, but it's not important. But you'll see.
Yeah.
the Proexis, right? You can see in relation to your physical age, you can already start to do a little bit of analysis. Think of what your age is, and if it's below 35, you're still in the preparation phase in relation to your existential program. If you're older than 35, you're in the executive phase of your existential
So I'm
program.
preparing still.
If you're,
We are all prepared.
Old preparation.
we all wish. But the execution phase, the executive phase is really quite nice, so
Yes.
you can't complain. And if you're younger, on the next area down, the maturities, if you're younger than 26, you can already start to see, that you haven't yet reached your physical maturity. But if you're like me, you're, say, what am I now, 44, 45, something like that.
You're almost mature.
I'm almost getting mature. Mentally. I hope physically, it seems physically things are... I'm still growing physically, but unfortunately it's not in the good way anymore. I'm going out as opposed to up. But jokes aside, emotionally, after 35 years of age, so you can start to do some analysis and reflection on yourselves in terms of your own life, where you've been, what phases you've gone through, and where you are now.
Yeah.
Many of us, I think most of you, are, if you're not in your executive phase already of the existential program, which is a phase where you start to give back, you will be very shortly. This is actually deepened. We sent out a link to you about a page on the ISIC website that has a lot of book downloads. One of those books is Our Evolution, so you can download that. You can also buy this on Amazon as an ebook, but you can download the PDF online. Mm-hmm. Another one you can download online or you can buy on Amazon, I think I've got it on the site, is the Proexis Manual. So if you're curious about this preparation phase, this executive phase, you can find more information about that stuff online, just as a brief aside.
I'm just want to ask you guys if you are okay, if how we share a little bit of your impression, because this class, usually we have a lot interaction with you, but now is the first class we are talking a lot, we are presenting things.
It's okay, yeah.
So
sometimes it takes time for you to get in warm up and actually. Heidi is the only one that asked something, so we know that it's working. At least,
we also like to interact with them, a little
but
bit.
But if you can interact, we don't mind. We like it. We like it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's like
you have
it's good
questions,
to be busy.
if you even
you can interrupt at any time.
There's no stupid question.
Please don't sleep there. Try to be with us here. Yeah. That's a challenge.
Yeah,
there is. So, guys, I'm just going to briefly say from pages 31 to 37, you've got some more material about conscientiology that feel free to read, reflect on, and so on. No rush for that. Just in your own leisure, in your own times, in your own time. But if you've got any questions, absolutely, please feel free. This course is all about questions, and so you're not going to be out of place at all if you ask as many as you need to. So we're going to flick now to... We're going to wait a moment, I suppose, to see if there are any questions come down the pipe.
Yes.
At least hello.
Hello, we see we have Trang in Vietnam.
Yes.
We've got a bunch of people in Germany, which is great to see you all. We have a good few friends here from Brazil. Yes. Renato in Africa. We have Switzerland, America, Puerto Rico. It's really fantastic to see such an array of different countries.
Yes.
And there is more people that couldn't be in this first class, but
are going to do the course. And it's funny, saying this now, you have a shower of energy, like receiving tingles and a shower of energy. So it's obviously a really positive thing.
We are all connected, to the world to study ourselves in Sunday. That is here is a sunny day. I don't know where you are, but here is a good sunny day. Nice sunny.
So there's no more questions there. but we'll not yet anyway. Feel free. But yeah, shy tea. But we're going to talk a little bit now more about conscientiometry. We're going to actually next week we're going to cover a bunch more things related to that. We're going to go into more detail about the Conscientiogram. We may do a little bit of that today. We'll just sort of see how we go. But we're going to talk more about conscientiometry, so this science of studying consciousness. So if you want to turn, if you've got the book there, turn to page 8. So actually I should just can say quickly that Sophie, who is in the list here, she's our contact in Berlin who has these books available to buy. The price of a printed copy of one of these is 20 euros. So it's pretty cheap. It'll probably be cheaper than if you buy them online. And so you can just pay Sophie and we'll get the money off Sophie later on when we're in Europe. So that's how that can work if you're in Berlin and you want a copy of the book. It's well worth it, I think. You'll see. It's easy to work with. You write your notes and ideas in there as well, so it becomes like a real reference manual for you. So anyway, we're probably going to talk and explain more about the book next week, along with how we typically do an analysis of what we call an evaluation sheet. And as I was saying, there's 100 of those in the book. Plus there's a few other support things, such as there's applications and a spreadsheet for your laptop. So you can download an application, install it, and read the questions in the application and give yourself notes, a mark. So you're actually going to give a mathematical or a numeric evaluation of each of the 2,000 items in the book. So anyway, conscientiometry. Anyone want to talk about conscientiometry a little bit? Who feels inspired?
Yeah, keep talking.
Go, my friend.
Go for it.
Yeah, conscientiometry is an area of research of conscientiology where we have been saying that we study the consciousness from the quality point of view and also the quantity point of view.
So qualitative and quantitative.
Qualitative and quantitative. That's the analysis. And together, them together start giving us an idea of the level pace of our evolution. So actually, conscientiometrology is what is measuring is evolution. It's not measuring the consciousness because it's big or fat or high or tall. It's measuring it's measuring the evolution. So that's why you're going to see also a scale, evolutionary scale on that table, right? That has to do with percentage. And this percentage has also to do with our grades. You can see that on page 31 of the book there. There is this scale could be much bigger, but this is what we work to right now with 14 levels, right? We are going to go through that much more profoundly. That we're going to not talk too much about. You want to go?
Yeah, let's go into that.
We're going to talk a lot about
we're going to go there now.
Yeah, let's go there now. Well, the good thing about it is that the book itself,
page 31, just
page
as a
31,
reminder.
the book itself, or the Conscientiogram, has to do with the range from number 2 to number 13. So number 1 and number 14 are not covered by this book, and I'm going to explain why. Number 1 is transmigrated consciousness. What is that? It's a consciousness that used to be evolving or having their lives or resonating or coming back on the soma in this planet, and at some point, for its own need, evolutionary need, it needs to go away to another planet. Usually a planet with less evolution, so that this person can develop better their needs there. We're going to explain that more. But those guys that are going out of the planet are not the ones that we're covering on this book. So the consreal that is resummated, what is consreal? Consciousness reurbanized.
So reurbanized consciousness.
Reurbanized consciousness. Consreal is because it's in Portuguese also. So some of the neologisms we keep the same as in Portuguese. Don't turn around when you're talking English, because then we make it more a broader way of
more
speaking.
Universal. The same term regardless of the language.
So consreal is reurbanized consciousness, which come from the... What is reurbanized? What is reurbanization anyway? Reurbanization is a work that's being done in this planet ever since this 12th century, 1100. So this, up to 2075, is cleaning up the dimensions, the tropospheric area, which we call barotrosphere.
It's like a heavy extra-physical dimension.
It's a very heavy extra-physical dimension, very close energies to the body, right? And where most of the illness of the planet is there. So we are cleaning up, bringing the illness or the ill consciousness into the body now. So that's one of the reasons we have so many strange things going on in the earth right now. It looks like we, instead of evolve, we are going back. No, we're not going back. We are just going around and cleaning the house. Mm-hmm. When we clean the house, we find a lot of old problems that we are not dealing with, and we need to be dealing with them right now. So the old problems are new problems on the surface of Earth right now. So we need to cope with them. So this is the reurbanized consreal. Very important personality that we are going to be encountering, and we are going to be assisting.
And we
also have been. I don't know those guys, but I've been one of them.
Sure.
I think they not, because they're very good. They're very good. But
we've all been. Theoretically, we've all been less evolved, and we're evolving over time. So every one of us has been really primitive and basic in our manifestation in our life, doing things that we really would be completely terrified and embarrassed about now. But we may still have some traces of behavior on some small aspects or parts of our personality that are the same as a consciential.
Exactly.
So for one item or some items in the book, the note we give ourselves can be really low.
Sure.
Like equal to like a consciential. We need good level of self-criticism to do that and admit that and see that, because it's an embarrassment, but it's the reality. Reality is the best cure. So we see where we are.
No, but it's also good, because that's the thing that linked me to those friends of ours. Otherwise they would be away from here. So they're here. Some ticket of them being here is because I'm also a little bit like them. If we were nothing to do with them, they would have to do their thing somewhere else. So we are also providing them with the opportunity of re-seeing that. So if we still have some trait that has to do with that, that's a big opportunity to help lots of people, because we're not alone there. So that's the way I see about my weak trait. There is no way to evolve without weak traits. I'm sorry. If you want to be always right, it's going to be very frustrating, because you're not going to be able to do it. So, let's start by saying that errors are the ones that help us evolve faster and better.
And we want to diminish our distortions.
Yes.
So sometimes we make an error and we distort the thing to make it look like it's not really an error.
That's the real error.
Yeah, that's a bigger error. We want to diminish the distortion, say
Yes.
the reality, my reality in this regard, on this item, on this evaluation, is that. Okay, tomorrow I could remember something else, and my mark can be different. Okay, I can remember other things, but at this moment my position is that. So this is part of the process. And so those are the genre talked about the cons house, the least evolved
I talked
guys.
a lot about them because I know them very well. I'm very close to them. I'm very familiar with them.
All of our old friends.
All my old friends. Old problems. I like old problems. Then we have the vulgar. Anyone else? Let's go around.
We probably won't go through each of them because there's about 12 different levels. But the main ones in terms of orienting ourselves, we have you'll see around 25%. We have a vulgar pre-serenissimo. We have unconscious bait. So what is unconscious bait? This is when you still don't have the energetic sensitivity developed too well yet. But you have an assistential profile. You're starting to be able to do some assistance to non-physical consciousnesses. So what happens? You're not aware of it. That's why you're still unconscious. But the helpers start to connect more unbalanced extra-physical consciousness. So consciousness not of this dimension, physical dimension, into your energies. And then it's like a transfusion. Your slightly more balanced energies and thosenes, your thoughts and emotions and sentiments, go to them, and the more pathological thosenes and energies from those consciousnesses come to you. So there's this assistential connection.
So in other words, you pay taxes, you don't declare, but because you don't know you paid them.
Yeah.
You're
helping, but you don't know it.
Taxes doesn't know.
And here, this lack of sensitivity and awareness of the process is the problem, because many times people get a little bit irritated.
Yes.
And they don't realize the irritation isn't really with them. It's another consciousness that's irritated, but you perceive their thoughts, their ideas, their emotions, and you, if you're not aware, can start to become...
Yeah, and sometimes in this level, very common people become a little pessimistic and sometimes think that they have no luck. I have no luck. Wherever I go, everything happens to me. Everything happens to me. I said, yes, I know this. I know this situation. I've been there. Because we all have been unconscious baits as well. At some point, more or less.
Yep.
Actually, we have things from all those guys here. In different amounts, colors, flavors, and everything. So we still are unconscious based to a certain point, or in some occasions. But some people are mostly unconscious bait most of the time, and then you can say that they are on that stage at that moment, in that particular evolutionary context or snapshot that I have said before. But in a while, it's going to change this. In a while, in a couple of years, or hundreds of years, or thousands of years, because you're so old, you have millions of years. So what's 1,000 years? It's nothing. So this is a snapshot. 100 years is a snapshot still from you. Think about it.
And so many times we find ourselves, the good thing is not to have a rigid idea. No, I'm unconscious bait, or I do penta, therefore I'm always 25%, and therefore every mark you give yourself in the book is 25%.
Yeah, no.
We're going to talk about this more next week, so we're not going to go deep into how you evaluate yourself now, but we're going to give you an overview of these evolutionary scale. So let's jump up from around 25% to 50%. You give yourself a mark around 50% because this is permanent free. What's permanent free? Permanently intrusion free. So totally and permanently intrusion free. So you feel the intruders, you feel these extra physical consciousnesses, their crazy ideas and their difficulties, but you don't get disturbed by it. Your energies are balanced enough, your cosmoethics are organized and developed enough that you have a kind of refractability in relation to those energies. You have an inbuilt defense that's working. So anyway, and then at the top of the scale we have the Serenissimo. And you'll see on the bottom of page 31, we've defined the Serenissimo pretty well. and give you a few ortho thoughts, which is from a couple of big books we have in Conscientiology, to help you understand what is a Serenissima. So they score on all the questions in the Conscientiogram 100%. So anyway, that's sort of the range we're talking about in terms of the evolutionary scale, from the really simple to the most evolved ones who still have physical lives. So let's jump back. So that was page 31. That evolutionary scale is on page 31. If we jump back again to page 7 in the book, we'll get back into the conscientiogram or the conscientiometry explanations.
Okay.
So we covered an important part of it, talking about the scale, because conscientiometry, as Dharma was describing, is about evaluating evolution. So at the top of that curve, you have the Serenissimus. At the bottom, we have the Conshels. And then what we're trying to do is measure that process. So that's why we did that little interlude about the evolutionary scale. Let me have a quick look here on page 7, what we want to look at. So the theory of consciousness evaluation. So essentially what we're going to do with the Conscientiogram is a consciential evaluation, identifying in a numerical way the qualities of the personal attributes that you have within that evolutionary scale which we've just been talking about. So the process of conscientiometry is this, to try to mathematize evaluation of the consciousness, to give you a clearer reading on your own evolutionary condition. Because once you have this diagnosis, conscientiometry allows you then to sort of, it's already in itself actually, you'll find it's part of a process of self-cure.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, one of the things that has to do with that is that what we were talking about a little bit before, when we said that subhumans evolve naturally, just almost instinctively, but not somatically instinct. It's a consciential instinct. It's a evolutionary drive that's natural. What we are talking about and measuring now is the will of evolution, is the lucid evolution, is the evolutionary intelligence. That's why the book has so profound questions, and we need to broaden the understand to see how we are dealing actually on facts and how we are reacting to this evolution from the lucid point of view. So the fact that you decide to spend some of your Sunday, and some people are even far away, that this is at night there, it tells a lot about you, that's the drive of evolution, but it's not a natural drive. It's a conscious will of evolution. And this changes the scale. This changes the curve of evolution. And that evolutionary curve is what we're talking about here. That's what we are measuring here. And to understand the curve, we need to understand details, traits, characteristics, tendency, temperament. So that's why we're measuring that. Now you understand facts against traits and evolutionary curve. That's what we're going to be working most of the time. Everything has some cause. Even if we don't understand, we don't understand today, but at some point we will understand the cause. Sooner or later, we're going to understand. So that's research, self-research. I'm researching myself. I don't have the answer. Well, the important is to do the right question. Researching is questioning. That comes back to her point. Believing is against questioning. Mm-hmm. So I need to ask the right question. What about the answer? The answer is not as important as the question. If you hit the right question, then you all of a sudden, now I understand that. Then it comes the cognition. It's not quite the answer to your question, but then you understand it in a broadened way, and then you understand your reaction, you understand why you do things that way, you understand your mechanism, you understand how you function, and that when you do that, you're more lucid. You're working on your evolution now. So that's what we're looking for. We're not looking for the end of it. We're looking for the process, making better the process of evolution. That's very important.
Yeah.
Exactly. This process, it gives itself to like a evolutionary refinement. So by doing that, there's a phrase here actually I'll read at the bottom of page 14. Improvement. This developing model, being improved with constant observations, brings increasing clarity and precision to its items, thus eliminating omissions and crude mistakes, which we've all been guilty of, I'm sure, ultimately exposing over time the correct meanderings of the relationships of mind and matter, consciex, consin, or consciex seriexis. So the seriexis is a series of existences. This life, this existence, for example, is part of that. An interested reader from this moment on can initiate their refinement of themselves. So conscientiometry is to do with refining yourself, but it's a self-refinement. It's nothing imposed by anyone else. It's something you discover as you go along through the process of the self-research. And you'll see how it's structured a little bit here on the top of page 14. You've got the consciousness units of evolutionary measurement.
Well, just before you go to this point, it's important because sometimes when we have conscientiogram, we also can do our conscientiometry with alone by ourselves. But one thing that I saw is that when you are with others and you can, expose yourself and you can bring your facts, share it, you start to see your blind spots. That is really important. So even if because we have, in my experience, when I do the conscientiogram, lots of good ideas come. So we always try to write it down because there's a lot of information about ourselves that the helpers help us. But also, when we are with people, they can tell you about yourself. So it's always important to try to be and bring your experience and ask about the things. And that's why we have also other courses that we, like guinea pig, that the person can share their research, their self-research. So
yeah. And as we get into actually the sections and answering the questions, will become and start to make much more sense for you.
And even a question makes you think about yourself and you realize how you are in relation that variable.
Yeah.
And that's interesting how the book, when you work with the book, those things become more clear.
Yeah, one of the things that is interesting to think is that you see there are 10 secondary variables. Those 10 variables are the 10 sections of the book. So yeah, we're going to be covering this a lot. So 10 sections means 10. Each one of them has 10 evaluation sheets. So we're going to be working for 2 classes
in each section.
On each section, right? We're going to talk a lot about those things, and you're going to deepen with those things, and you're going to have some work to do at home, some tasks to do at home to continue your self-conscientiometry there. So it's going to be, we're going to be covering this from the first class to the last class.
And it's interesting because in the end, I'm jumping to the end, but I think it's important because in the end you're going to have a picture of yourself, and so you're gonna see, wow, I'm good. My strong trait is communicability, or my weak trait is coherence, and you're gonna have this session, and you're gonna see which one you have is a strong traits for you, which one is you're gonna rank them, and you're gonna approach them in another method. It's really,
this ranking helps a lot to understand where you are. It's very
So I suppose we're going to cover this more next week, as I've said, but it's probably good to give you a little bit of an idea of what, as Margaret introduced, what you're going to get from the course. So as we go through the course, you're going to be answering the main objective, the ideal objective is to answer all of the evaluation sheets. So basically, nearly all of the 2,000 items. In the classes, as the genre described, we're going to cover one evaluation sheet per week, but also your homework will be to answer the other 4 evaluation sheets. So each week you're going to try to answer 5 evaluation sheets. And by the end of that, if you keep with the rhythm and you manage to do it all, you end up with like this picture of yourself. And why we included this picture on the front of this book, it's a little bit hard to see, but I'll show you there. There's a circle in the middle of it, right? You have like this 360 degree graph of yourself completed. And so you'll see the high points, you'll see the lower points, you'll see the sections where you're more robust, and you'll see other areas where you still have more work, even more work to do. So at the moment, as we've said, it's largely just theory, trying to help you understand what is conscientiology, what is consciential metrology, how do you go about this process. Next week, what we're going to do more is look into the Conscientiogram a little bit more, explain more about the Conscientiogram. We're going to explain the technique of approaching an evaluation sheet. Understand it, connect with it, and start to answer the items. So we call that the rapid analysis technique. And also part of that is how do you give yourself a mark. So it will all make sense once we start to get into the course from the 3rd week on. It will become much clearer when we start to put things into practice. But basically we talk about the evolutionary scale today with the cons, hows, and the serenismus, that upward sloping evolutionary thing, to help you understand, well, your mark is going to be somewhere between 0 and 1. For example, if that's the scale you choose to use, or between 0 and 10, or 0 and 100, up to you what scale you want to use, but we usually recommend between 0 and 1, and then you have 0.1, 0.2, and so on. So, not going to go into too much depth about that today, but just to give you an idea about what's coming, what we've talked about today and why, what's coming up next week. There'll be another more theoretical class. Maybe we have a chance to introduce something, a little bit of practice, maybe, and we'll see. Yeah. Not usually, but maybe we introduce that. And then talk about the other tools that we have available. But do you guys have any questions or any comments?
Yeah. I have a comment about the book, because we talk sometimes here. And that book is like, if you think about this book, like if you're having an interview with the evolutionologist, but not you are interviewing him, but he is interviewing you. So it's a good way of looking at the book too, because it's not easy. And in the beginning it's worse, no? But we can assure you that after you pass the first process, then it's really rewarding.
Yeah. We say don't believe in anything, but then we say, trust us. It does make sense. But it's an invitation.
But we are just sharing our experience, no? But have your own.
Inviting you to try it.
Yeah, exactly.
Experimenting.
Exactly. But it's a good approach, because it is very much like that.